Every year in the United States, millions of smartphones, laptops, TVs, and gaming consoles suddenly stop working. Not because they were old, not because the company made a bad product, but because of small, everyday habits people don't even realize are damaging their devices. Think about this for a second. You buy a brand new phone for $1,000. You plug it in every night. You charge it the way you always have. You toss it in your car on a hot afternoon. You use whatever charger is closest. Everything seems normal. And then one day, the battery drains twice as fast. The screen glitches. The device overheats. The performance drops. Most people blame the brand. But what if the real problem is something far simpler? What if the damage is happening slowly, because of habits millions of Americans repeat every single day? Today, we're going to uncover the most common electronics mistakes that quietly destroy devices. These are habits affecting phones, laptops, TVs, gaming consoles, routers, and smart home gadgets across the United States. Some of these mistakes might sound harmless, others might surprise you. And a few are so common that almost everyone watching this video has done them at least once this week. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what's hurting your electronics and how to avoid it. Because once you see these mistakes, you'll never look at your devices the same way again. Right now, Americans own more personal technology than ever before. The average household in the United States has multiple smartphones, several laptops, tablets, smart speakers, game consoles, streaming devices, and dozens of connected gadgets. Technology has become the backbone of daily life. Work happens on laptops, school assignments happen on tablets, communication happens on phones, entertainment streams through TVs and gaming systems. But here's the catch. The more devices we rely on, the more damage everyday habits can cause. And the cost is huge. Americans spend hundreds of billions of dollars every year replacing electronics. Phones are upgraded every few years. Laptops slow down and get replaced. Batteries fail earlier than expected. Chargers burn out. Gaming consoles overheat. Some of that is normal aging. But a massive portion of device failures actually come from preventable mistakes. Things like improper charging habits, poor ventilation, extreme temperatures, cheap accessories, and bad storage habits. These issues aren't just annoying. They affect productivity, finances, and even safety. Overheating batteries can become fire hazards. Failing chargers can damage circuits. Dust buildup can kill expensive gaming systems. And as devices become more powerful and more compact, they also become more sensitive to how we treat them, which makes understanding these mistakes more important than ever. To really understand the problem, we first need to look at how modern electronics actually work. Inside every phone, laptop, and gaming console are incredibly complex systems. Tiny processors running billions of calculations every second. Lithium-ion batteries storing energy in tightly controlled chemical reactions. Circuit boards packed with microscopic components. These devices are engineered to operate within very specific conditions. Temperature ranges, voltage ranges, power flow patterns, airflow requirements. When everything stays within those limits, devices perform perfectly for years. But when those limits are pushed too far, damage begins. And the tricky part is that damage often happens slowly, not instantly. For example, lithium-ion batteries degrade over time when they're constantly pushed to extreme charge levels. Heat gradually weakens internal components. Dust blocks cooling systems. Power fluctuations stress circuits. You may not notice the damage immediately, but weeks or months later, the effects appear. Suddenly, the battery drains faster. The laptop fan sounds louder. The gaming console crashes more often. Or the device simply stops turning on. Now let's dive into the real mistakes people make. The first mistake is something almost everyone does, leaving devices plugged in all the time. In the United States, many people charge their phones overnight every single night. They also leave laptops plugged in all day while working. Tablets stay connected to chargers constantly. It feels harmless. But keeping a lithium-ion battery at 100% charge for long periods creates chemical stress inside the battery cells. Over time, this stress accelerates battery aging. That's why some modern phones now include smart charging systems that pause charging at around 80% and finish charging right before you wake up. But here's where it gets serious. Even with smart charging, heat and constant charging cycles still affect battery health. If you want your battery to last longer, it's generally healthier to keep it between about 20% and 80% when possible. Not always, just most of the time. The next mistake is something Americans experience a lot during summer: leaving electronics inside hot cars. Inside a parked car in the United States, temperatures can easily exceed 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Your phone, laptop, or tablet sitting in that environment is exposed to extreme heat. Heat is one of the biggest enemies of electronics. Lithium batteries can swell, screens can warp, internal adhesives weaken, circuit boards expand. Sometimes the device recovers once it cools down, but repeated exposure slowly damages internal components. And here's the part nobody talks about: cold temperatures can also cause problems. In many northern states, leaving devices in freezing cars can temporarily disable batteries and stress internal materials. Extreme heat and extreme cold are both dangerous. Another mistake is using cheap or unknown chargers. This one is especially common in the United States, where online marketplaces are flooded with extremely inexpensive charging accessories. They might look identical to name brand chargers, but internally, they can be very different. High-quality chargers regulate voltage carefully. They protect against power surges. They communicate safely with devices. Cheap chargers sometimes skip those protections. They can deliver unstable power, which stresses battery management systems and charging circuits. And in rare cases, poorly designed chargers can even become fire hazards. Saving $10 on a charger can end up costing hundreds in device damage. But the mistakes don't stop there. Another major issue is poor airflow. Modern electronics generate heat while running, especially powerful devices like gaming consoles and laptops. To stay safe, they rely on cooling systems. Fans pull cool air into the device and push hot air out. But here's where things go wrong. People place gaming consoles inside tight cabinets. They set laptops on blankets or couches. They stack routers behind entertainment centers with no airflow. This traps heat, and heat buildup slowly degrades internal components. Many gamers in the United States have experienced consoles suddenly shutting down during intense gaming sessions. Often the cause is simple overheating due to blocked ventilation. Dust is another silent killer. Over time, dust particles get pulled into devices by cooling fans. They collect on heat sinks, fan blades, and internal vents. This reduces cooling efficiency and raises temperatures. In homes with pets, dust buildup can happen even faster because pet hair gets pulled into cooling systems. A laptop or console that once ran quietly can suddenly sound like a jet engine. That's the fan struggling to compensate for restricted airflow. Cleaning devices occasionally with proper tools can make a huge difference. And this leads to another mistake many people make: ignoring software updates. At first glance, updates might seem unrelated to hardware health, but software updates often include improvements to power management, battery efficiency, and thermal control. In other words, updates can help devices run cooler and more efficiently. Skipping updates can leave devices running outdated processes that waste energy and generate unnecessary heat. Now let's talk about something that surprises a lot of people: charging devices while using heavy applications. Think about playing an intense mobile game while the phone is charging, or editing video on a laptop while it's plugged in. When devices perform demanding tasks, they generate heat. Charging also generates heat. When both happen at the same time, temperatures can spike. Most modern devices are designed to handle this occasionally, but doing it constantly accelerates wear on internal components and batteries. And this is the part that changes everything. Many Americans now rely heavily on portable power banks. Power banks are convenient. They extend battery life while traveling or commuting, but low-quality power banks can produce unstable power output. Just like cheap chargers, this can stress charging circuits and degrade batteries over time. Choosing reputable power banks with proper safety certifications is extremely important. Another mistake people rarely think about is physical pressure. Phones carried in tight back pockets can bend slightly over time. Laptops shoved into overloaded backpacks experience constant pressure. Internal components are designed to be compact, but repeated stress can loosen connectors or damage delicate parts. And then there's moisture. Electronics and water are obvious enemies, but humidity alone can also cause problems. In humid environments, moisture can slowly accumulate inside ports and circuits. Over time, corrosion can occur. This is especially relevant in coastal regions of the United States, where humidity levels remain high. Now let's step back and look at the bigger picture. Technology companies design devices to survive normal use, but they also design them within practical limits. Devices can't be built to withstand every possible misuse without becoming much larger, heavier, and more expensive. So manufacturers rely on users to follow basic care practices. And when those practices aren't followed, devices wear out faster. This creates an interesting debate. Some people believe companies intentionally design devices to fail earlier. Others argue that many failures simply come from how devices are treated. The truth is somewhere in between. Technology is incredibly advanced, but physics still matters. Heat, electricity, and chemistry obey strict rules. Ignore those rules long enough, and damage happens. Of course, electronics also bring enormous benefits. Phones connect families across the country. Laptops enable remote work. Smart home devices improve convenience and efficiency. Technology has transformed daily life in the United States in ways that were unimaginable just 20 years ago. But the same devices that make life easier also require responsible use. When used properly, many devices can last far longer than people expect. Some smartphones remain fully functional for 5 or 6 years. Laptops can run efficiently for nearly a decade. Gaming consoles can survive entire generations of gaming, but poor habits shorten those lifespans dramatically. Looking toward the future, electronics are only becoming more advanced. Devices are becoming thinner, faster, and more powerful. Artificial intelligence features are increasing processing demands. Batteries are improving but still rely heavily on lithium chemistry. Cooling systems are becoming more compact. By the year 2030, personal electronics may be even more integrated into everyday life. Augmented reality glasses, AI-powered assistants, more connected homes, but with greater complexity comes greater sensitivity. Future devices may require even more careful handling, which means understanding how electronics work will become more valuable for everyday consumers. So what can you actually do to protect your devices? If you're a student, avoid extreme temperatures and try not to keep devices plugged in constantly. Give batteries time to cycle naturally. If you're a working professional, maintain good airflow around laptops and monitors. Clean vents occasionally and keep chargers reliable. If you run a business, invest in quality power protection and avoid stacking equipment in poorly ventilated areas. And if you're an everyday consumer, remember that small habits matter. Avoid cheap accessories. Keep devices cool, let them breathe, treat batteries gently. These simple changes can extend the life of your electronics dramatically. Technology is powerful, but it's also delicate. And the way we use our devices every day determines whether they last 2 years or 10. So the next time your phone battery drains too quickly or your laptop fan starts roaring, pause for a moment. It might not be the device's fault. It might just be one of those everyday habits quietly working against you. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the hidden world of electronics and technology, make sure you subscribe to TechVibes for more insights like this. And I'm curious to hear from you. What device failure surprised you the most? Share your experience in the comments and let's talk about it. Because understanding technology isn't just interesting, it's becoming essential.